Hey, how's it going? Watch Transformers. I despise Michael Bay. If you watch my spoiler free version, then you'll know that I could not stand him and I really went on a huge tangent. Even then, I feel like I was underselling him. This right here is Transformers The Last Night, the spoiler version. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to do so, I'm sorry. Otherwise, keep watching. The movie starts off showing medieval times, Age of Camelot with King Arthur and Merlin. King Arthur and his men are in a battle and they're losing really bad, so they call upon Merlin for help. Merlin is this obnoxious drunk guy in the film, and he stumbles his way to a cave where some ancient robots, ancient Autobots existed, or guardians, and they go and help win the battle. And he gives the robot gives Merlin Excalibur. Now, Excalibur is not magic. It's actually alien technology. Who knew? Excalibur is not magic. It's alien technology. Who knew? This takes off from the fourth movie. Mark Wahlberg's character is in hiding. He cannot communicate with his daughter, who is now in college. He can only call her, but he can't speak to her, otherwise he may be traced. He's hiding out in a junkyard. And the movie tries to pull off this whole politics of the government trying to step in and vanquish all the robots, Autobots, and Decepticons. And in doing so, Mark Wahlberg ends up saving some kids who are really obnoxious as hell, especially the little girl in the movie, because she's a tough girl. She's able to build things. And then we are introduced to a love interest for Mark Wahlberg, which is a professor. Like her father is a historian and trying to figure out the secret of things. Now, to give credit where credit is due, this movie does have some explanation of what happened to, say, Shia LaBeouf's character, Sam Witwicky. And it does have appearances from characters from the other movies, too, like Josh Duhamel and some of the other military guys. But Shia LaBeouf, you see him as a picture because Anthony Hopkins' character, Sir Anthony Hopkins' character is part of the Wiccan group. It's kind of like a secret organization that studied the Transformers since the beginning of their arrival centuries ago. And now Shia LaBeouf is part of that group, apparently. But again, it's just a picture, and it's a really bad picture of him. I don't know if Michael Bay was trying to make fun of him out of spite. That is the kind of shit Michael Bay would pull. What was cool, though, is Sir Anthony Hopkins, his character does have a servant robot. He's kind of funny, I guess. A lot of these movies now, they're trying to make robots more funny, but the plot of the movie is that Optimus Prime, after trying to look for a new home, he is discovered and captured by a female robot villain, and she reprograms him to attack Earth because Earth apparently has Unicron from within. It kills me because the thing about the 1980s Transformers animated movie was Unicron was a great planet-devouring villain. He was the size of a planet, and he destroyed planets as he went through. In this movie, once again, they try to make everything all about Earth. Why is the ultimate key always on Earth? So it's suggested that Unicron is within Earth and they're trying to destroy Earth and rebuild him. And also rebuild Cybertron. But you really do not see Optimus Prime until the very end. You see him in the beginning, and he don't show up until the very end. Most of the movie is actually filler with Mark Wahlberg and the professor meeting Sir Anthony Hopkins, and they're trying to just unlock the keys of this Transformers universe. And because it's a Michael Bay film, there's a lot of scene settings. There's Stonehenge and there's underwater. He loves to use different. Michael Bay likes to use different regions. Really loves wasting money on locations. Sound like I'm jumping around, but I'm really not. Because this movie gives very little of what happens. They keep switching locations, but there's not really much of a story that couldn't be handled in one location, I feel. So, of course, the whole big deal is of course, they have like Grimlock and John Goodman Autobots. And Megatron is actually a villain as well. However, it makes no sense because the last movie he returned, but as Galvatron. Now, if you know anything of the Transformers mythology, it was Megatron and then he upgraded to Galvatron. Now he's back to Megatron mode. They show his men to his Decepticons, and they're like extreme versions of villains. And there's even Barricade, who was dealt with in the previous movie. There was even a point in the scrapyard where Megatron is holding the head of Starscream. I was hoping he was going to bring Starscream back because in the cartoon, Starscream and Megatron actually had this interesting dynamic where Starscream always wanted to plot against Megatron, and he was never shy about it. Starscream always made himself clear about overthrowing Megatron, and yet Megatron always kept him on the team. Never understood that. You never really understand whose side Megatron is on, because with a female robotic villain who's trying to unleash Optimus Prime to destroy Earth and release Unicron, it's like we are wondering if Megatron teams up with humans and Autobots to take on Optimus Prime, or they join the bad guys. There's even like a lawyer negotiation scene between Megatron with Megatron. There's a lawyer negotiation scene with Megatron as they're trying to make a deal with him, and in return they release some of his henchmen. The movie is very nonsensical. Finally, in the end, just kind of jumping ahead because I got more to say about the other stuff, Optimus Prime finally shows up the last 20 minutes of the movie, and they battle him, and of course it doesn't take too long before they bring Optimus Prime back to the good, and they defeat the female robot just before they can unleash Unicron. But it is suggested that Unicron is within the Earth and ready to come out at any moment, and the movie ends on that kind of a cliffhanger. Now, being a spoiler version, if you've seen the movie, you know this, but I'm just saying, why did the trailers make it seem like this was going to be the last movie? Everything was built up for this moment. It's not. Michael Bay announced that there were going to be 7 films. I thought it would have been fine if it ended on a trilogy, but no, we gotta keep going. Like Pirates of the Caribbean, gotta keep going, gotta make that money. And Michael Bay is such a douchebag that he won't let it go. He knows his market, and I know his market too because I sat in the same New York theater with a bunch of dumbass douchebags who would be the ones who would masturbate to Fast and the Furious films. So they cheered every time there was a Transformer on the screen, and to me, I'm not even impressed anymore. With Michael Bay, whether it's robot fighting or explosions, doesn't amaze me. It's so predictable. Michael Bay has nothing to offer anymore. He just recycles his stuff, a lot of sexist jokes, a lot of borderline racist jokes, and he doesn't learn. He does not grow up. Like, I understand, like when you're in college or high school, you could be really brotastic, or a jock, or whatever, and that's fine, but eventually at some point you grow up. Michael Bay never has. You can always rely on someone sweaty bent over a machine for his gratuitous shot. Another Michael Bay thing, when a female gets out of the car, it shows her feet stepping out and her legs. It's the same type of shot over and over again. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I like mindless violence from time to time, but surprise me. I didn't go into detail about what happens after the battle because the movie just ends. You don't see Mark Wahlberg uniting with his daughter or anything like that. You do see that he's going to have a date with that professor, but that's pretty much it. And I'm sorry, I just kind of like lost hope in these Transformer films. Michael Bay announced that this would be his last movie, or last Transformers movie he's directing, but I have a feeling he's still going to have his hands in on it, at least producer or something. You're wondering why my face is lit up. I'm not very mad. I'm just sitting in a parking lot talking on a video camera because nothing is YouTube privileged than talking on a camera in your car. I think I've reached my requirements of a YouTuber now. So I'm going to give this movie a D plus. Yeah, the lowest grade I can give a movie, D plus. There's no excuse for it anymore. A lot of movies I reviewed in the past, I've given a lot of excuses for, but this, I just can't anymore. I mean, now that I'm a college graduate, I just can't do anymore. I hate you, Michael Bay. I really do. How dare you have work? Also pisses me off that Michael Bay is in Mystery Men as one of the frat guys. Two things about that. I love Mystery Men, and he soiled it with his presence. And the other thing, I'm in a fraternity, but we're not all douchey frat guys like he is. And the man is in like his upper 40s and he's never evolved. Pretty much all I have to say, the trailers are deceiving, the posters are deceiving, not too much of the medieval stuff. And there was a poster of Bumblebee fighting Nazis with a burning swastikas in the background, but that scene only lasted 2 minutes. Movie is deceptive. The movie is very deceptive. It gets people in the seats and pulls the rug from underneath of them. Oh, but at least they fixed Bumblebee's voice, which could have sworn they fixed it in the first movie, but what do I know? Anyways, sorry about the shaky cam. I'm doing this from my car, and thank you for listening to me bitch. Have a good one.